Every time he went out, he would carry soap with him, furiously rubbing his hands, extremely hard and extremely carefully, until his hands were chafed. Even through the screen, I could feel goosebumps. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly froze, staring blankly at the doorknob, unwilling to let his freshly washed hands touch anything, for he had a severe germ phobia. Looking back, he saw that the paper had been used up. Stubbornly, he waited by the door until someone else came in before slipping away. He was none other than the prototype for Iron Man, Howard Hughes, a household name in America. A second-generation rich kid, he was also a paranoid genius. When investing in filmmaking, he used 35 planes, 187 flights, and 2,000 actors. At that time, this was enough to wage a small-scale war. He personally oversaw every detail of the film. To get the perfect shot of a plane in the air, he didn't hesitate to halt a crew that cost tens of thousands of dollars daily, even offering a high price for a meteorologist to find the perfect cloud. When the film was almost complete, film was gradually being phased out, and sound films began to become popular. Without hesitation, he proposed a remake. When the funding chain was on the verge of breaking, he took a gamble, mortgaging all of his toy companies. The 560-hour film original was compressed into 94 minutes. In this way, a film costing $4 million was released. This was Hell's Angels, a film that caused the biggest traffic jam in America on its opening day, after the loss of 3 pilots during filming. Industry insiders considered this work to be the pinnacle of the film industry at that time. Undoubtedly, the film was very successful. But Howard Hughes was not satisfied. He still found flaws in the work, believing that the planes didn't look beautiful enough, because he was not only a perfectionist director, but also a pilot. He had learned to fly at the age of 14 and had taken it to the extreme as an adult, even opening an aircraft factory. One day, he came to the field to inspect the planes. He was extremely strict about details. All the engineers present were very nervous. Faced with such a perverted boss, most employees would have collapsed, but they persisted. This led to the fastest aircraft test flight at that time. On that day, Hughes wanted to personally break the record and conquer the sky. The engineer said that the fuel tank was only enough for 2 laps, and he warned Hughes to be very careful, as the test flight was extremely dangerous. With all the buttons on the plane turned on, he gripped the controls and gave the throttle maximum power. The plane took off smoothly. The man was challenging the limits of speed. After circling in the air once and returning to the speed measurement point, the first lap was at a speed of 339 miles per hour, and the second lap was at a speed of 347 miles per hour. At this point, the fuel was almost gone, but Hughes felt that the plane he had built could go even faster and insisted on flying a third lap. The third lap reached a speed of 352 miles per hour, a new record for his plane. Everyone below cheered for him, but just then, the fuel was exhausted, the engine stopped turning, and the plane fell straight towards the ground. However, he was not panicked. With the skill of a veteran, Hughes pulled up the controls and force-landed the plane in a field. When the rescue team arrived, he was still immersed in the joy that speed had brought him. Actually, making movies and building planes were just his hobbies. His real hobby was Hollywood actresses. He had casually dated 164 of them, and now he had his sights set on Katharine Hepburn, a woman who had won 5 Oscars. He took Hepburn up in that plane. Just like that, he got the goddess. However, as time passed, Hughes's cleanliness obsession became more and more severe. Every time he ate, there had to be exactly 9 beans arranged neatly on his plate. If a friend ate one of the beans, he would immediately become restless. When he went to dine at Hepburn's house, he saw blood seeping out of the steak and looked uncomfortable. Coupled with Hepburn's parents' disrespect towards him, he left directly in front of the whole family. The perfectionist Hughes came up with the idea of building the world's largest plane, the Hughes H-4 Hercules. If this plane could be built, the military would definitely be very interested. To promote and create publicity, he intentionally acted intimate with other women, which directly crossed Hepburn's bottom line, and they had a quarrel. Just like that, they broke up. But this little episode did not affect his pace. At a dinner party, he deliberately leaked the news of expanding overseas routes to the boss of Pan Am. The 2 aviation giants thus started a war without gunpowder. He was the prototype of Iron Man, with millions of dollars in assets, but he was still very stubborn. To test the newly developed aircraft, Hughes personally piloted the plane again. Although the test flight went smoothly at first, after more than an hour of flight, the right engine malfunctioned, and the plane instantly lost power and fell straight towards the ground. At that time, the ground was not equipped for a forced landing. In the end, the plane crash-landed in a residential area, smashing into one building after another. The plane finally stopped. Hughes, covered in blood, wanted to escape from the cockpit, but the hot glass scalded him, and he screamed in pain. He struggled to break through a ball of fire, but another one came towards him, burning him terribly. In the smoke, a man who looked like a firefighter rushed over and extinguished the flames. In this accident, Hughes suffered 9 fractured ribs, and 80% of his body was burned. Luckily, he survived. However, bad news followed. With World War II over, the military canceled the order for the Hercules, and due to the crash, the company was also grounded by the government. But Hughes did not intend to give up on the Hercules. To complete the development, he took on $18 million in debt. and mortgaged all his companies to the bank, finally raising $40 million. The CEO of his rival, Pan Am, often brought people to Hughes' house to search. Hughes couldn't stand it anymore and invited a congressman to negotiate. This undeclared war was officially opened. The congressman threatened Hughes to stop international flights. Otherwise, he would hold a hearing and expose Hughes' ambition to develop a military aircraft to the whole world. But Hughes was unwilling to compromise. He locked himself in the studio, desperate. His condition deteriorated day by day. On one side was a bottle of milk, and on the other side was a bottle of medicine. The CEO of Pan Am came to acquire Hughes' Transworld Airlines, but Hughes flatly refused. Just at this time, a woman entered his life and helped Hughes regain his strength. Who is she? You can do some research to find out. The hearing was held as scheduled. The sharp and keen Hughes returned. He turned the tables. He exposed the collusion between the congressman and Pan Am to monopolize the overseas market, winning public praise. The Hercules also became the focus of public attention. On the day of completion, this plane, larger than a football field, stood on the sea. Hughes was still the pilot for the test flight. In this attempt, the Hercules' speed climbed continuously in strong turbulence, making this giant fly. It was a great feat. The Hercules brought Hughes back to the peak. Afterwards, he began to research jet aircraft. His legendary story had only just begun. Hughes was eccentric, daring, and had obsessive-compulsive disorder. But it was often these perfectionist geniuses who drove human progress.